bone to pick with Michael Araujo.
Yes. What is
Our
that?
esteemed stadium announcer and also does the intro and the exit right on this show.
Yes, Michael Araujo. You're going after Mr. Michael Araujo. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, he called us over, summoned us to a summit in the stadium before Saturday's game and said, "How come the Thursday shows have fierce nicknames like Eric the Hammer and Sophie the Cannon, and this show he said you have a duck and a bear." And first of all,
right,
I went to the beautiful, intelligent Mrs. Panda and asked her about that, and she said, "Wait a minute, pandas aren't even bears; they're marsupials."
What?
Which is, that's it seems like unassailable logic, except for the fact it's totally wrong. I actually Googled that. Pandas are bears.
Okay, but they
Michael
have some, but they do have some marsupial tendencies, though, right? I mean, we're not crazy about that.
Yeah, and what her argument was that, by the way, she's Puerto Rican, very upset about what happened this weekend.
Right.
But that aside, she was saying that pandas are marsupials, they're not bears, so that Michael Araujo was wrong. He's not wrong. They are bears. But you know what, Michael? Pandas can be fierce. I'm a fierce bear. Now you have to fight for the honor of ducks. I don't know if, other than Donald, maybe, whether there's any really fierce ducks, but I'm a Michael Araujo. I'm a fierce bear.
Yes. I get. I mean, one is we were discussing that after you left too, because we were sort of trying to think like, how do we correct that then? The cannon, the hammer, and I'm like, you can't give yourself your own nickname. So how do you correct that? It was an interesting chat. Of which, Mike, I'm going to be honest, I'll probably just ignore you. That's really what's going to happen. One, it takes a lot of effort to come up with new nicknames and stuff. And two, I mean, we're kind of already set in that. But anyway, yes.
I like my nickname. Again, Mrs. Panda used it in Costco the other day, which, again, we were talking about Costco too.
Right.
And since COVID, I mean, first of all, everything in Costco is big, including the customers. But what I don't get is how come they have all these sample stations? It's like aid stations, the Boston Marathon. People need to be eating while they're buying more food. I just don't get it.
Right. By the way, we know that there was no audio there at the beginning, like normal. I clicked one too many buttons, but we're there now. Don't worry. They missed the whole part where we were talking about Houston and Seattle going to extra time and all that fun stuff. So, we are waiting that. Waiting for the final of that one. We saw New York City today take on Cincinnati. Cincinnati winning that game 1-0. So those are the games that have sort of finished up today. I do have some charts that don't have those updated, only because I was trying to wait as late as possible, and it still didn't seem like that was going to happen. You, however, you had three soccer games in 24 hours? Is that?
In less, 22 hours and 30 minutes kickoff for 3 games. It was Soccer-geddon for me this weekend. We had the Galaxy, as you know, Saturday night,
right,
8 o'clock kickoff,
right,
at Dignity Health Sports Park. So all those people in New York that are Galaxy fans had to wait till 11 for kickoff. Then that game ended. We did our post-game stuff. I filed my story, left Dignity Health Sports Park about midnight for the drive back to South Bakersfield. Had to get up early the next morning to come back to the Diggity for college soccer, USC and UCLA women in the Big Ten. Yes, you've heard that correctly. Big Ten championship game won by USC 1-0. And then I went from there to, when that ended, I went to BMO for the 6:45 kickoff of LAFC's playoff opener. But I wanted to say, Katie Pandolfo, who is in charge of Dignity Health Sports Park, she's the general manager. She had come up to talk to us with Tom Braun before the Galaxy game
Great
started. Conversation
with Tom, with Katie. It was a lot of fun. So that was
someone
nice.
Else that you'll mention in a minute.
Yes, we'll mention in a minute. Yep.
And so Katie came up, and I know her. I've interviewed her before, especially when the Chargers were there, about what was going on and everything. And so anyway, I'm walking around the concourse, trying to stay awake before the UCLA USC game, I'm foraging for food, as pandas are known to do. And I asked her where would be a good place to go, and she said, "Well, there's pizza over there." So I went and got in the line. She came up behind me and she said, "If you wait in this line, you're going to miss the start of the game. Do you want pepperoni or cheese?"
Right.
And I said, "Cheese." And she goes, "Okay, go to the press box. I'll bring it up to you. What do you want to drink? A bottle of water." So I go up to the press box and I said, "How much do I owe you?" And she said, "Forget about it." And this is the general manager of Dignity Health Sports Park.
Was serving you food.
Hand delivers me food. And the best part was, I said a bottle of water, and she didn't know whether I wanted still or sparkling. So she brought both and didn't allow me to pay. And I just started thinking back to Jamie, who is the new communications director for the Galaxy, right, was apologizing for maybe getting off on a bad foot and wondering if she was doing a good job.
Which by the way, she did not get off on the wrong foot.
No,
we corrected her on that. It was fine. Yes.
And so she was asking if relations with the media and her were good. And I just think back to how it was even a year, 2 years ago. I mean, and I thought about that when Katie brought this food up. In the past, not too distant past, I think the Galaxy would have preferred that we starve than bring us food, or if they brought us food, it would be dog poop with glass mixed in.
Right.
Yeah,
it's a little different, right? Oh,
it's very different.
We have to correct the record too, because I think we may have indicated that Tom Braun was scared of us talking tough about the Galaxy if the Galaxy should stop. He brought this up to us, and he said I just want to correct the record. So in no way did we think that he was scared. I think Kevin, you and I didn't mean to indicate that. He said he would fight us, no problem, right? That's sort of what I was getting at. That's probably what he said. No, probably not.
Yeah, and he doesn't. Well, he was, because he thought we were a panda and a duck.
That is true.
He didn't know we were fierce ducks and pandas.
He didn't know we had all that going on.
So maybe he is afraid now.
LA Galaxy 5-0 winners. We'll talk a little bit here in a second, but I want to get prepped for John Nelson coming on here as we go sideways to start the show as normal. 5-0, clean victory. Kevin, off the top of your head, I don't even know if I can do this. Do you remember a Galaxy game being that clean, playing for that long, through 90 minutes? Not just this season. Tell me, when in history do you think it was even possible to watch the Galaxy play that good over 90 minutes? Let alone the fact it's the playoffs. Let alone it's the fact of all this other stuff. I mean,
well, they've only won one other playoff game in history, 5-0. That was 2014, which, spoiler alert, was the last year they won an MLS Cup. And as you pointed out, the scores in that game were Landon Donovan hat trick, Robbie Keane, and Marcelo Sarvis.
Yeah.
So even mentioning this team in the same breath as that team is pretty good. A pretty good omen, I think, for this Galaxy team.
Yeah, I do. I think that there is. I feel like there was something magical happened. Really, is what I'm trying to say. Is something magical happened. Something we didn't. I don't know that we expected to have happen. But watching the Galaxy play 5-0, watching them have success throughout that entire game, both on the offensive and defensive side, 4 goals in the second half, all that really big. Certainly the defense, I think, is the side we sort of got to step up to. And in order to help us do that, we are very glad to have joining us for the very first time here on Corner of the Galaxy, Mr. John Nelson. John, you're on Corner of the Galaxy with Josh Guesman and Kevin Baxter. How you doing, bud?
Hey guys, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we are excited to get you. I just have to ask off the start though. Have you come down from the high of the weekend? I mean, it's not often defenders get to score goals. It's not often that defenders get their first goal in Major League Soccer, in the playoffs even. So that had to have been pretty fun.
Yeah, no, I've definitely come down a bit. No, like you said, defenders don't get to score a lot. So it's been an exciting few days, especially to do it at home in front of the fans. And my parents are here, so they got to see it, which was a really special moment for me. But no, I've come down a little bit. Obviously, we're focused now this week going to Colorado, but it's been awesome. It really has.
I was given a little text message before we started here. Do you remember the last time you scored a goal professionally at any level?
Yeah, well, my first year in 2019 with North Texas, I was with FC Dallas at the time, and with North Texas, I was coming back from my injury. I did score a goal there, but obviously that's not MLS. So other than that, my first game in college with North Carolina Tar Heels back in 2017.
See, even pulling the stats from whenever I pulled that is correct. 2019, September 6, 2019, 3-1 in that game. You scored a goal. As you could see, we were sort of reminiscing about the 5-0 victory. We haven't really dove into it yet at the start of the show, but it's something that we're getting ready to do. A complete defensive performance, John, and I don't know that we've been able to say that about this team throughout this season. It's been the big question mark. I know you're part of the defensive side of things. How did that come about for you guys, and is it a fluke, or do you think you guys can repeat that?
No, I don't think it's a fluke at all. I mean, just how we play. We're attacking fast transition team, so it's going to leave some holes at the back. Like it's just how we play. But no, I don't think it's a fluke at all. We're a good defensive team. But no, like I said, that's just how we play. And of course we want to build on that. I know Maya stressed that a lot. That's the standard that we need to have. The clean sheet. That's what we need to do, especially in playoffs now.
I think you talked about after the game, I think it was you, it might have been Greg, but I'm pretty sure it was you, talked about how the defense sometimes on this team gets a little bit overlooked, that, a lot of people pay attention to the offense and the possession time that the offense has, and that you guys feel like maybe you're a little overlooked. And I'm wondering, is that a motivation? Because you look at this game, you guys gave up one shot. The offense had 18 shots, so you outshot them 18-1, but you guys gave up one shot, no shots on goal, 9 touches total for Colorado in the box in the second half. Again, as Josh says, a complete victory. And I'm wondering if you guys are looking at it and saying, this is what the defense can do. Don't sleep on us. We're really good.
Yeah, no, of course, I agree. I think that is what we're thinking. We can do that. We are really good. And of course, it's not just the back line, but of course the pivots, the 6s, the 8s, so the Edwin Cirlos, Gaston, Mark Delgado. But if you watch that game again, it's everyone defending. When we lost the ball, it was, Peck pressing, Payne still pressing, and Joveljic, and then, Ricky, which is awesome to see. I know in the second half, Payne still had a good defensive play with me on my side. Someone, I think, overlapped me, and he made the run back and stopped it, and that's huge. That's playoff mentality right there. Those things might get overlooked, but that's huge. And even after the game, I told him that's the difference right there. So it's not just the back line, but we need everyone.
Yeah, I've heard that a million times. It's not just the back line or John McCarthy. Defending is a team sport. And you are now third on the team in scoring in the playoffs this year with your goal. And I asked you after the game, and you were a little uncertain, it seemed, exactly what you were going to get. I'm always kind of geeked out on this. When you have a milestone like that, you said you were going to get a signed ball, and then you're going to keep your jersey and get a signed jersey. Is that kind of typical what guys get with their first goal?
Yeah, that's what I've seen in the past with other clubs. You get that game worn jersey. So I have that already. I'll get that framed, and then I'm getting one of the team balls. Then I want to get the whole team to sign it. Obviously not. It wasn't just me. It was the whole team. A great performance from the team. And I do just want the whole team to sign it. It's kind of who I am. It's a team performance. But yeah, I think that's kind of the standard that I've seen throughout my career that players get after they get their goal.
So cool, your first goal in a playoff game at home. It's not like a March game in Sporting Kansas City with 12 people there. This is the whole world watching, sort of, or the whole MLS world watching, anyways.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it. So, John, I have to ask you though, so this is it's one of our favorite pastimes that we've been doing over 16 seasons of doing this show, where I compare my ultimately ridiculous soccer career, which ended in JV in high school, by the way, to professional athletes. But I too was a defender, John.
Okay.
And so, whenever I scored a goal, I never knew what to do, because defenders don't score that many goals, and I certainly didn't score that many goals. Did you know the celebration that you were going to do? We saw the slide. Was that the plan, or did you go for it?
That just came to me. I had no idea what I was going to do. Honestly, when my team was asking me about it today, I kind of blacked out. I don't really remember much. I remember shooting it and then just kind of sliding in the corner. But I think the celebration turned out well. People are telling me that, they like the celebration the most. It looked natural. So that's what I'm most excited about. But no, I didn't know what I was going to do, but it turned out great.
You talked a little bit after the game, John, and you were talking to us in the press conference, and you said, it might be fun to watch tape on this one. Did you get a chance to watch the tape with the team? Did you guys go over it today?
We did not.
Okay.
But this week, I think tomorrow we'll do a good recap of it. But for me personally, I watched the match recap, and it was obviously mostly just us with the ball. A lot of good points for us. But I think tomorrow we'll start going over it more as a team, and then more prep for Friday. John,
let's jump to the beginning of the season now. Let's go all the way back, and we're in preseason. We're at Coachella. Your addition to this team certainly at the time seemed like a depth piece, right? And so you're getting ready to come in there. What did you expect, one, from the team as you were looking at it, and two, sort of from yourself this season?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I expected a lot from the team, honestly, just to have a bounce back year. Obviously, I wasn't with the Galaxy last year, but I know that they wanted to bounce back and get to that Galaxy standard. So, ever since the first day of preseason, that's what the coaches harped on us, and that's what we needed to do. So I was expecting a high standard, and obviously with these guys coming in like Payne, Still, and Peck, that helped a lot with this team. So I was expecting a high standard and a really good Galaxy team. And for me personally, I knew it was gonna take some time at first, coming into a new team, a brand new system. So I just had to be patient. That's what I told myself. I continued to work hard, stayed after training, got in the gym more, just did everything I can to stay ready. And of course, injuries happen, and that's what happened. I got my chance, and I think I took it really well. But even in the beginning of the season, when I was subbing in, coming to close out games, I thought I did great. I thought I did everything I can to help that team, to help the team, and that's what Vanny wants to see, and that's what any coach would want to see. So I thought I took my chances really well, even when I was just subbing in. And then, like I said, injuries happen, and you got to take your chance.
By the way, Seattle beats Houston 5-4 in penalty kicks in their playoff game, so that one's in the books. Sort of following up on that question, this was your third team that you played with in MLS. You didn't get to play for St. Louis last year in the playoffs, I don't believe. And as Josh came over, as Josh said, when you came over, Julian Aude was going to be the starter at that position. And I've already said this I'm not just blowing smoke for you, John. I've said this on Apple TV already this year, that you are probably the most valuable player in the Galaxy this year, because you stepped into an important position and really dominated. And you just had a tremendous season. I mean, I think it's a career-changing season for you. But can you talk a little bit more about the mental side of that? Your third team, it means a third team wanted you, but it also meant another team, considered you expendable. You were coming into a position where you had to fight for your playing time. You proved yourself. What is that like mentally, just to come in and say, look, you guys don't know what you have here. Wait till I get a chance and I'll show you.
Yeah, mentally is everything. Ever since I was a young player, like I've learned that mentally you got to have it. You have to be mentally strong. And exactly for this reason, this is, I'm bouncing around teams. This is my fourth team in the league now. I was with Dallas, Cincy, St. Louis, and now Galaxy. So yeah, my fourth team, which is pretty wild. But yeah, no, mentally is everything, and that's who I am as a player, as a person. You have to stay mentally strong. And like I said earlier, I touched on it a little bit, just doing everything I can to get my chance. Staying after training, the gym. It is tough though. It is really mentally tough, because obviously you want to play. You want to play every minute, but you have to be patient. You have to be mentally tough, and I did that. And no, it is tough. But like I said, I think I took my chance really well.
Well, and obviously you're not surprised you did this. You know what you could do, but it's kind of a tip of the hat to Will Kuntz in the scouting department to say, again, a guy that at the time everyone looked at this as a depth piece. You've turned into being arguably a season-changing addition. They saw some things in you that maybe only you had seen up to that point.
Yeah. I mean, with St. Louis last year, it didn't work out. That was more of kind of a contract issue. So they didn't let me play the last half of the season. So it was definitely going to be a challenge to find another team. And then Will comes in and with confidence and says, yeah, we know what John can do and what he brings. He's a solid defender, some experience now. He's a good player. Let's bring him in. So a lot of credit to him. Honestly, not a lot of other teams were really looking at me or were going to give me a chance, but he did. So I give a lot of credit to Will, and hopefully I'm paying back him and the club now that I'm helping out the team however I can.
It certainly seems that way, and we have at least one listener question in here. Gary gave us a $2 super chat and said, "Question for John." This is actually one that he asked Greg Vanny as well. So you will be on the record here along with Greg Vanny. Coke or Pepsi, John? And the answer matters.
Coke or Pepsi?
Yep.
Oh wow, that's a tough question. That's a good question.
This is hard-hitting journalism.
Yeah, I know, right?
Any punches here?
There's a lot of pressure. I'm gonna have to say Coke. I think I've had maybe one Coke in the last year. I'm more of a Sprite guy every once in a while.
Okay.
But I'm gonna go Coke.
Well, reason numbered 1,999 why I'm not a professional athlete. I had like 2 Cokes today. So between you and me, John, I think I'm winning that. But that Coke was the correct answer, by the way. So we appreciate that. As we look towards this Friday, you guys, in past formats, You guys would be up 5-0 on aggregate, although the game probably would have been played in Colorado to start with. So there's some things that change. But in past formats, you guys would have a pretty sizable lead. As it is, it's a 1-0 lead, right? You have one game up and you need to win another one. What do you expect out of Friday night? What do you expect out of Colorado? Obviously at altitude, I imagine it'll be a little cooler than it is here in LA. So what are you guys sort of getting to expect from this Colorado team on Friday?
Yeah, it's a clean slate. We just had a big win, but yeah, the aggregate, it's nothing. It's a new game. It's a brand new game. So I'm expecting Colorado to come out flying. I'm expecting them to press us, get in our face, hitting the ball behind our back line, making it really difficult for us. That's what I'm expecting. I know that's what the team's going to be expecting, but we have all the momentum now coming off a huge win. So we got to continue to ride that out. But I'm expecting a really tough game in Colorado.
And finally, before we let you go, the atmosphere on Saturday night. There's nothing like, I think Greg said it, whenever it gets a little bit colder, you're supposed to be playing soccer at this time of year. This is sort of, one of those things that feels like everything builds to a crescendo. Did you enjoy the stadium on Saturday night?
Yeah, I did want to mention before I hung up here that how awesome the atmosphere was. Shout out to the fans all season. It's been great, not just at home, but even on the road. But the home games have been electric. They've been awesome. And it's honestly a huge advantage for us players. We feel it. Once we get that goal, the stadium comes alive even more. So, no, it is awesome. And I love this colder weather. Me being from Ohio, I love it. It just feels right. It feels like the playoff time. But yeah, the atmosphere in the stadium, the energy, it's been awesome to play in.
Awesome. Kevin, you have one more to
yeah, no,
John,
I just wanted to say it's been a lot of fun watching you play this year. I really appreciate what you've done and sharing that with us. And, the times that you've come to speak to us after practice and after games, you've been great, cooperative, respectful. We really, really appreciate that. Not everyone does that. And so thanks to you for that.
Of course. Yeah, thank you. No, I appreciate you guys too.
Awesome. John, well, good luck on Friday. Travel safe, all right? I'm sure we'll talk to you after that game on Friday. So go score another goal, see if Miki can get you another assist on that one too, right? Defender to defender, right?
That would be great. That would be great. But no, I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you. This was a good time.
Awesome.
Thanks
John.
a lot.
We'll catch you soon. All right, there he goes, Mr. John Nelson, the man of the hour, by the way. You can talk about Ricky Pooch scoring 2 goals for the Brace. You could talk about Dejan Joveljic scoring 2 goals for the Brace. But you have to talk about John, which, by the way, this is a family show, so we will not use his full nickname that is now circulating around the internet. But John Nelson coming on the show and talk. He's every time we talk to him, Kevin, I always enjoy it. I always learn something. He seems like and I get to say this because I'm old now, so great kid, right? It really has a square. He worked really hard. He will, because he believes in himself and he knows, he probably would have thought that he was going to play this whole time. You and I and everybody else watching was like, oh, that John Nelson guy, maybe we'll see him a couple times. Maybe he'll come in late in games. And that's sort of what we saw until Julian Ade, got injured. And then John Nelson comes in and has been one of the most consistent defensive performers I think the LA Galaxy have.
Well, I mean, I think you have to look at it as we're not elite athletes, and many of the listeners of this program aren't elite athletes either. But put yourself in his position. I thought it was his third team, as you mentioned, fourth. I missed Cincinnati, but here's a guy that came into MLS with all these hopes and dreams, thought he was a good player, got a chance, started moving around. It would be so easy for him to come here, accept the contract, and then just say, look, you guys aren't going to play me. I'll just sit on the bench if you need me.
Right.
Fine. Instead, as you mentioned, he was in the gym. He was doing extra work. He was staying after training. Again, knowing that he wasn't going to play. And then when Julian Ade gets hurt in the middle of the season, he's ready because he's been prepared. He's been preparing as if he was going to start. And then I think he's been one of the most important players for the Galaxy this season. And again, as I told him, I wasn't just blowing smoke. I was on an Apple TV show the Galaxy had me on recently, and they said the topic is going to be name some unsung heroes, players that weren't that weren't expected to play a big role this year and have. And I went down the list that we've talked about,
right.
Diego Fagundes and Surreal. And then I hit on John Nelson. I said that the season would be totally different. Would they be in the playoffs? Yes. Would they have won 19 games? Would they have been challenging for a supporter shield? No, not without John Nelson. He has really solidified that defense. He provided some offense. I know it was his first goal, but he's contributed in a lot of other ways.
Right.
He's been a solid guy back there. Most importantly is he's been a guy who I think he has the starting position now Giulianotti wouldn't have to win that back if he wants it. But it wasn't a guy where they said, okay, this is the weak link, this is the guy off the bench, he's not really a starter. No, he proved that he belongs there, that he earned that starting spot, and he's become a rock back there.
He has been. Gary, by the way, $5 super chat says, we love John. That's awesome, Gary. Thank you for the question as well. Eric gave us a $5 super chat. We appreciate that. Eduardo gives us a $2 super chat, says, I swear Nelson took that shot in warm-ups, right? Very well could have. I mean, listen, let me just tell you, as a defender, again, I can't keep pretending that I have anywhere near the same understanding of the game as professional athletes. I just like it every once in a while when Greg agrees with me on something that I've seen, which, by the way, one of the things I saw in the game was John Nelson playing further up the field, and Greg confirmed that they did move John Nelson a little further up the field in this game.
And he was in the midfield for good portions of the game, too.
He was.
Usually when outside backs come forward, they're wingers. They stay way outside. But he curled in, and the other thing I asked him after the game, and he pushed back. Which, by the way, I love it when you ask a question and the athlete doesn't just say, "Yeah, you're exactly right,"
no.
And they tell you. I asked John because Vanny had said this too, and my recollection of the goal was, Yamani made the pass. John Nelson put it down with his left foot, and then time seemed to stop. It seemed like he waited a long time before he took that shot, and in reality, it was a second. But it just seemed like he took a long time before taking that shot. And my thought was he like, what am I supposed to do here? Am I actually a guy without a goal? Am I actually supposed to shoot? Vanny said the same thing too. He said it looked like John paused. John Nelson said afterwards that he knew if he had told himself, if I get the ball, I'm shooting and I'm scoring right here. And he said that's exactly what he did. But if you watch the replay, watch it closely, because it looks like he pauses for just a second before striking the ball with his right foot, which I gather is not his strong foot.
This is Vanny's quote. This is from the press conference. He goes, when he put it away from his left foot, I was thinking, no. And then he curls it in with his right foot. And Vanny goes, I haven't seen that. I have got to be honest, but I'm happy for him. Vanny was shocked. He's like, when a coach says I haven't seen that, that means in practice, all the times he's watched you, he's never seen you finish with your right foot, probably because John is a left-footed guy, right? The whole deal. And defender. Why would he do it? And so Vanny was like, oh, he's going to take a shot with his left foot. No, don't take a shot with your right foot. Oh, okay, it's good. And he curls it far, tucks it in. Let's go over the game because we've been getting into it, but John Nelson was great. 5-0 win for the LA Galaxy. Starting lineup was Mr. John Nelson on the left side there. It was Yoshida, Garces, Yamane, Ricky Puig, Edwin Cerrillo, Delgado, Paintsel, Joveljic, and Peck. That was your starting lineup. McCarthy in goal. This was a game that it feels like, whenever you want to go back and watch the highlights, Kevin, that this game was definitely always within the LA Galaxy's grasp. And the fact that Colorado didn't have a shot on goal would certainly indicate that it was always sort of in control of the Galaxy. There were some times in that first half where I thought that Colorado had some decent enough buildups. They just didn't result in shots. Them without Jordy Mihalovic is certainly one of the things, and apparently he will be back for Friday. They're sort of hinting at that right now. So we'll see if that is something that actually happens. But this game was only 1-0 at halftime. And by the way, a set piece goal from the LA Galaxy. That doesn't happen from a corner.
A corner from who took that corner for the 10th time this season?
Ricky Puig?
It's been Peck taking the corners. And Ricky Puig, this was the 10th corner he's taken, 9 in the regular season. None of them led to goals. This one led to a goal, and Greg didn't want to talk much about that. I tried to pin him down on that, on why the change, what did they see, and he didn't want to talk about it. And that tells me that there is something to this, and that we're going to see some more, and that they've been sort of breaking this down. I think they probably wanted to see Peck, who's a bigger body, in the middle of that penalty box rather than Ricky Puig, who's going to get pushed around and knocked around. Right. Ricky's the better passer anyways, I think. And so it makes sense to have Ricky take the corner and put the big guy there in the middle where he can do some damage, or at least take some defenders with him somewhere.
Let's go over some notes and quotes real quick here. This meeting was the 96th all-time meeting between and across all competitions between the LA Galaxy and Colorado Rapids in the MLS Cup playoffs. The Galaxy hold an 8-2-0 record against Colorado, and then LA holds an unbeaten record, 3-0-0, 11 goals for, 3 goals against, in the 3 meetings that they had so far. But here is what I didn't know going into this, and I think it would have been an interesting thing to look at. I don't know that the LA Galaxy were aware of this whenever they went into it. In 5 all-time MLS Cup playoff matches between LA and Colorado at Dignity Health Sports Park, the Galaxy have posted remember, 5 meetings. They have posted 5 shutouts and hold an unbeaten record of 5-0-0, 15 goals for, 0 goals against, playing against the Rapids. The Rapids have never scored a goal at Dignity Health Sports Park in a playoff game. 5 of them have been played. They have not scored a single goal. Do you think if you would have known that going in, you were saying, oh, well, that's not going to happen this time, right? Like you would have been like, not the Galaxy, because the Galaxy give up too many goals. But that's a crazy stat to stumble into on the backside of this.
But then look at the stats at Colorado where they're going now. Bruce Arena's last game with the Galaxy was the game they lost in Colorado in the playoffs, lost on penalty kicks.
Yep.
Yeah, 2016, and eliminated the Galaxy from the playoffs, and that's where they're going now. And you mentioned they haven't scored a goal at Dignity Health Sports Park. Thanks to this new playoff format, they can win this series without scoring a goal, because they could 2 shutouts and then go to penalty kicks. They could win. So
they absolutely could.
Goals aren't as important as you think they are anymore.
By holding the Rapids without a shot on target, it marked just the 11th time in 1,001 combined all-time MLS matches, both regular season and postseason, the Galaxy have held their opponent to 0 shots on target. So 11 times out of 1,001 times. The Galaxy, this was the Galaxy's A shutout of the season. By the way, Mitrovic has one of those as well across all competitions. So that was it. And then Vanny's record improves to 12-6-2 for the playoffs, both with Toronto and the LA Galaxy. So that was interesting to me. Go back though. Let's focus in on some of these individuals here. Let's call out a name. Dejan Joveljic. What do you have to say about Dejan Joveljic in this particular game, Kevin?
Showed up. I mean, that's been, I think, for me, that's been the knock. Sometimes in the bigger games, you don't see him. He showed up. He scored the first goal, fighting off a defender, had a defender draped all over him, and still got his forehead on that cross from Ricky Puig and the corner kick, and was able to get it in. And then the second goal was just beautiful. The game was out of hand by then, but still just a really good goal. I guess, and he also had an assist on one of Ricky Puig's goals. So, I mean, the biggest compliment I think for Dejan is he showed up, and in this game he really did.
Yeah, he did. Puig also had 2 goals, 1 assist, right? Yamane had the assist on Nelson's goal. Joveljic had the 2 goals and 1 assist. Nelson had another assist, by the way, 1 goal, 1 assist in that game. Puig gets the one from Peck, so Peck with 2 assists on that night as well. Here's the thing that I saw that I don't know that I've seen from the LA Galaxy. The defensive side, obviously. Let's set that aside for a second, because we talked a little bit about that with John Nelson, so I think we've covered that, but we can go back and touch on it a little bit more if we want. But let's talk about offensively. Greg talked about it. 4 goals in the second half. The Galaxy leading 1-0 at halftime. That header goal was Greg was sort of like, it wasn't even like Dejan was close to the goal. He just, sort of put it up, and it was good. It was looped correctly and in the proper position, and it goes in. So the Galaxy sort of able to have that feeling of 1-0 at halftime. It sort of helps them, settles them a little bit. So they come into that second half. The thing I can say about the second half is I don't know that I've seen the LA Galaxy team play that fast, that forward at an opponent's goal. They were much in the way, if you watch the Vancouver trouncing of Portland, and the Portland defenders were like running into each other in the box because they couldn't keep track of where Vancouver was going. They didn't know what was going on. I forget who the announcer was on that game, but he goes, they're 6 and 7s, right? It was sort of one of those, right? You're looking, the guys have no idea where they're looking. They don't know where they're supposed to be. There's too many guys. It feels like the LA Galaxy outnumber Colorado in the box every single time. I don't know that we've seen that. And seeing Ricky Puig score 1 full speed, being able to take a touch inside the box and then getting the shot away as quickly as he did, Joveljic getting the ball and bouncing it out and being able to hit that left-footed shot across the goal and into the goal. All of these things happen at a different speed. And the preview of Wednesday night show, and that's right, we're going to do a Wednesday night show, not a Thursday night show, because 1, the game is on Friday night, and 2, Thursday night is Halloween, so we will be busy on Thursday night. So Wednesday night, but a preview is.
What are you gonna be?
Me, I'm going to be a dad who chases around his blue ninja. So that's Jake is we haven't been letting him wear his Halloween costume because we're afraid he got sick of it. So we're sort of like, nope, just wait for it. It's coming. Like get excited about it again. Cause God forbid he's like, tomorrow he's like, I want to be something different, I got to tell everybody, you were eating some Halloween candy before we started this show. Yeah, I know. I know. Add it to my. By the way, John in the chat room told me that if I had 2 Cokes a day, that I'd be having 10.5 pounds of sugar per month.
Holy crap!
Yeah, that's a lot. So thanks, John, for that. Also, I don't. Do you remember the Lethal Weapon movies? Right? Do you remember those? You know, I'm getting too old for this. You know, that one. There was unfortunately, Mel Gibson's character was stopping smoking, and the way he would stop smoking is he would buy the full pack, and then he would count out like how many cigarettes, and he would throw them away. And the idea was behind it that eventually it would be so expensive that why would you keep smoking? Because you're only allowed to smoke 2 of the cigarettes that you pulled out. That was the whole idea of stopping smoking. That's how I drink soda. I buy the largest soda, and then I drink about this much of it, and then I go.
And sometimes you spill it on yourself.
That hasn't happened in a while. Let's not bring that back up. But that's the idea behind the sodas. So all that fun stuff. That being said, looking at this LA Galaxy team and everything else that is going on, it certainly seems that they found another gear. Colorado had no answer. Colorado didn't look like they were playing the same game. And if anybody read Alex Ruiz's excellent article today that he had out, go on Twitter, find it in his Substack.
It's really good. It's really good.
It's tons of fun. It's got some great stats in there, but he points out that maybe Greg Vanney had a little bone to pick with Armas over there. Armas was nominated as a Coach of the Year finalist over Greg Vanney, and as I said on Thursday, the guy who lost 14 games and basically has the worst team in the playoffs right now, and they've had like the least amount of points or the second to least amount of points in the Western Conference since League's Cup, comes in and absolutely got his butt kicked, out-coached, outplayed, out everything. It can't be a coincidence, Kevin. It can't be a coincidence the stars aligned and everything sort of happened this way, because Greg Vanney coached like a man who was aggrieved with the snub at Coach of the Year, and seeing the LA Galaxy play, it was almost like, hey, we're also showing that our coach is great. Also, we want to get over this Houston thing that happened last week. That Houston thing is stupid. Now we sort of look at that. But the thing that's going to happen on Wednesday night is Eric and I are going to sit there and talk about all these teams we've been watching playing in the playoffs. And outside of Miami, and Miami's a weird team, and we can talk about that, but outside of Miami, tell me there's a team as good as the LA Galaxy right now. So
and Miami barely squeaked by Atlanta United 2-1 in its first game. And by the way, Alex El Nino, young Alex, wasn't at the game because it started at 8 and his mom doesn't let him go out after dark. So hopefully he'll come back and do some playoff games later if they start at a more decent time.
Right.
I wanted to say a couple of things about what you're talking about with Vanney. And I'm going to go back to something I've said on this show a million times because I believe it, and I'm going to keep saying it. Greg Vanney, if he's not Coach of the Year, deserves to be in the conversation. His team won 8 games last year. They won 19 this season. They challenged every franchise record that was set under Bruce Arena, who everyone admits is the greatest coach in the history of coaching, right?
Right.
And he challenged all of those records with an arguably inferior team. And I'm going to say that reservedly, but there's no Robbie Keanes, there's no David Beckhams, there's no Landon Donovans on this team. There are very good players, but they're not at that level yet. One of the arguments I've heard that for people who want Tata Martino to win it is they say Greg Vanney is coaching a team that was given to him by Will Kuntz. Will Kuntz is the guy who did all this. Yes, 8 of the 11 starters were not on the team when Will Kuntz, or last August, 14 months ago. If you're going to make that argument, shouldn't you make the same argument with Tata Martino? Because he did not go out and sign Luis Suarez. He did not go out and sign Leo Messi or Jordi Alba. He plays those guys. I would argue what Vanney has done, and you can make the same argument for Martino, although all those guys played together at Barcelona. They knew each other. Greg Vanney had to take a Joseph Paintsil, where he came, African national team player. He had to take Gabriel Peck, a Brazilian 20-year-old, I guess 21-year-old, and he had to mesh those with guys that were new. Diego Fagundes came on. Maya Yoshida never played with these guys. You've got John Nelson coming off the bench. John McCarthy, a journeyman goalkeeper at best, having the best year of his career. All those guys played that way because Greg Vanney got them to play that way. And so I don't see another person who's Coach of the Year. Yeah, I think you can make an argument with Columbus.
Yep.
And I would even throw Cherundolo into that conversation. I guess you're not supposed to consider non-MLS games, but he's the only coach to take a team to 2 cup finals. He also won 19 games this year, and also had a problem with having to mesh different players, especially late in the season. So Vanny to me is coach of the year, and I don't even think it's really close. It's for him to not even be a finalist is very bizarre. But I wanted to get to some things talking about Colorado that Vanny said afterwards, because it really got me thinking, and it's the basis for my column, which will go up in LATimes.com tomorrow. And that's this new playoff format, which is completely bizarre, stupid, makes no sense, but it's the format they have to play. And the way it works is this first round of the playoffs is a best of 3, and it's 3 standalone games, meaning ties, as happened tonight. It was in Seattle. Ties are not allowed to stand. Ties are broken with penalty kicks. So there is a winner of every game. Aggregate goals do not carry over. At the end of the game, the teams go back to 0-0 for the second game. You have to win 2 games to advance. And again, aggregate goals don't count. And Greg Vanny made the point that under the old system, Colorado would not, and he took great pains to say that Colorado did not quit, although anyone watching the game may differ, but Greg Vanny did not say that. This is me saying it. Colorado did not seem to play with much urgency late in the second half. They were down 3-0 in about the 75th minute. Now, under the old format, Colorado would have been pushing for an away goal. That would have really helped them. If they keep the scoreline 3-1 with an away goal, they go home and with a really good chance to win. Instead, Colorado knew that this game, the game was out of hand. It didn't matter if they lost 100-0. It just counts as one loss. They started pulling starters, make sure guys didn't get hurt. They kind of packed it in. Didn't really matter what happened. And Greg Vanny talked about how that was a bad game for the fans, a bad game for the teams, because Colorado did not really compete at the end. They had nothing to compete for. And I thought that might have been the biggest criticism of this format that I've heard, is that if you get behind by a lot, just pack it in and we'll get them next time, because we start the next game 0-0. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and you're going to go in and there's no hangover for Colorado, right? You're absolutely right. There's nothing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the score is. It's still 1-0.
Under the aggregate goals format, the Galaxy would be ahead 5-0 going into the second leg.
Right.
Remember, home and away. I was told one of the things, the reason for this new format is MLS wanted to give every team a game. So in other words, if you if it was a single elimination game, Colorado would not get a game. The game would be played at the Galaxy, and that would be it. Okay, well, the home and away aggregate, 2-leg aggregate goal format gave every team an away game. But then MLS said, well, okay, we're going to give each team a game. That doesn't really make the top seeded team have much of an advantage. So we'll give them a third game. Again, it's just stupid. But my point would have been, under the aggregate scoring, LA Galaxy would be ahead 5-0. Colorado would have, and Colorado has no away goals.
Right.
Colorado has to win by 6 goals.
Right.
The Galaxy have never lost a game 6-0 in its history. 29 years, they've never lost a game 6-0. So the Galaxy would look pretty good going to Colorado with a 5-goal aggregate lead. Instead, they're going to start 0-0, and if Colorado wins, then they have to play a winner-take-all third game in a couple of weeks back at Dignity Health Sports Park.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, but you know what? It's also, now this is the mindset, right? Is you go into Colorado and it is do or die for Colorado, right? They have to win. Even if the Galaxy go in there and get a 1-1 and then win it in penalty kicks, then they would still go on. And there's sort of this double-edged sword. I don't know that either of them work. And Greg already sort of answered this question in the post game. He said, we want to go there and win this game and end it early, right? Like, it's one of those. We don't want to come back here, and you don't want to come back. You don't want to have a winner-take-all game at Dignity Health Sports Park. You would rather have a winner-take-all game at Dignity Health Sports Park than you would at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, right, in Colorado. But at the same time, you don't want to give Colorado the chance to be back in this game, in this series. So go there, beat them there, is sort of that thing. But they are, they know that they're playing for their lives. They know that they lose that game or tie that game and lose in penalty kicks, however it goes. Remember, directly to penalty kicks, that game's over. Their season's over. So it'll be their backs up against the wall, very much, in that defensive posture of knowing that if they don't come out and try to win that game, that the LA Galaxy will walk away, really with that victory. So it'll be an interesting one to sort of follow. We had some historical things that came over. The LA Galaxy's 5-0 win tonight equaled the largest margin of victory in an Audi MLS Cup playoff game in club history, which was done on November 9th, 2014 and October 1st, 1998. The other game was that October 1st. It was against the Dallas Burn. It was a 6-1 win for the LA Galaxy. It was in the conference semifinals. You had a bunch of goals in that one, 6-1. There was a lot there. Danny Pena, 2 goals. Carlos Hermosillo, 2 goals, Mauricio Cienfuegos, Welton. So there was a lot of goals scored in that one as well. That was 6-1 in 1998. We already talked about 2014, the 5-0 win with a Landon Donovan hat trick, Robbie Keane and Marcelo Sarvis scoring in that game as well. So that was one of the things that sort of got brought up in this. We also talked about the shutouts in the 5 all-time MLS playoff matches. The LA Galaxy have yet to allow a goal to the Colorado Rapids at Dignity Health Sports Park. With his 2 goals against the Colorado Rapids on October 26th, Dejan Joveljic has now recorded a goal against every Western Conference opponent, 14 different teams in MLS play, regular season and playoffs. He did it to Nashville in 2022 as well. So he has that going for him. And then a big milestone for one of our favorites to watch play, and certainly one of our favorites to talk to, Mr. Diego Fagundes, 400th combined MLS appearances, regular season and playoffs. A big milestone for him as well. We look at this, the game number 2 coming up on November 1st. That is Friday, 6:30 p.m. is the TV start time. I would imagine that it's going to start right around 6:45 or 6:40 when everything goes and kicks off. We'll have that for you on Wednesday night to get you ready for that game. Going over some of the scores, though, Kevin, just to look at it. We already talked about the wild card games before. On Friday, it was Miami winning 2-1 over Atlanta. You talked about that one in Miami. They scored about midway through or a little closer to the end of the second half, but to make that 2-1, it was a tough game for them. The thing about Miami, and I'll continue to say this is, and I think Eric said this to me and I agreed wholeheartedly, is that Miami needs like half a yard and they can score a goal. So they may not look dangerous all the time. The scores may look closer than you expect them to, but they win a lot of games getting a half yard. And as the Galaxy, remember, in their game against Miami, you give Lionel Messi a half yard, and then of course, eject one of the Galaxy players for a non-foul, and then that also helps them get that.
Well, does Miami start some of the old guys on the carpet in Atlanta? It's not a must-win game for them. Obviously, it would put them in danger of, they would have a final, then winner-take-all game in Miami. But, Suarez and Messi do not like playing on artificial turf. They're old. They're at the end of their seasons.
Yeah,
that might be a decision for the potential coach of the year, Tata Martino, to make.
Yeah. Really interesting. And we didn't talk about it, but the fact is that if you do sweep and you go 2-0, you have 3 weeks or 22 days off or something like that, roughly?
Yeah, 22 days off for most teams, which, and I did talk to one of the, I won't mention his name because I don't think he knew I was interviewing him, and I really wasn't. I was just asking a question, but one of the former MLS players who was a broadcaster, I talked to him the other day at the LAFC game, and we talked about how this is the absolute worst time to get that long break. And he sort of confirmed some of the things that I thought. What happens is you're a little fatigued right now and you play that way, and everybody knows that. So, your runs into the box are not as fast as they are in February. And the passes coming from people like Ricky Puig are not as crisp and as hard and as fast as they were in February because you're a little fatigued. Right. And everyone kind of understands that and they factor that in. So now you take a three-week break and you come back, all of a sudden you're running faster than you were in late October. And so passes go behind you, or Ricky strikes the ball a little harder, passes go in front of you. You need to recalibrate because it's counterintuitive. It sounds like, a break is great, you get fresh. They don't want to be fresh at this time of the year.
Yeah.
And so that long break actually takes teams out of the rhythm. And you think back to 2021, the New England Revolution had broke the MLS record for points. And as a reward, they got a first round bye in the playoffs. Sounds good.
Right.
That was followed by an international break. They didn't play for 21. They didn't play for 3 weeks, came back, lost their playoff opener on penalty kicks, and they were done. And the reason why they were done is because they had this break and they simply got out of rhythm.
Yeah. And
by the way, in Colorado, as you know, game will be played at altitude. It's also supposed to be 34 degrees Friday night. I don't know when it gets down to 34 degrees, whether that's midnight or whatever. They're kicking off at about, as you mentioned, about 7:45 local time. But it's going to be cold.
Yeah, it's going to be a little chilly. Going back to the games, Galaxy 5-0 win over Colorado. You had Orlando 2-0 over Charlotte. You had LAFC 2-1 over Vancouver. Interesting is that every home team has won outside of Vancouver at Portland for that wild card game, and Atlanta in those wild card games. If you go to the first round games, every home team has won. I think that stayed that way tonight too. Seattle won and Cincinnati won. We don't have the updated score on this, but Cincinnati 1-0 winners over New York City. Seattle 5-4 penalty kick winners over Houston. There was a red card in that Houston game as well. So Houston with their backs up against
red card in both games today.
There was. Oh yeah, you were telling me that there was one late in the New York City game, right?
Yeah, well, it's New York. It's actually Red Bulls, not New York City.
Red
Yes,
Bulls. Yeah.
there was a yellow red card late in that one too. So both teams will be out without starters.
It was New York City. I was right. You're wrong. So
I'm
it's
looking. I'm looking. It says New York.
Yeah. Well,
that's
you're not paying attention to that one. That's what it is. Cincinnati played New York City today. It was 1-0 for Cincinnati. So
I'm just thinking about the Yankees.
Okay, that's fine. Well, Dodgers actually just won, by the way. That was the thing. 4-2 winners for the Dodgers, so they're 1-1 away now. LA keeps winning, as it seems. I wonder who the first LA team to lose is going to be. That's going to be a fun one because I'm sure the Lakers play before anybody else.
Yeah, I think if you go back to last Wednesday, no LA team has lost.
Yeah, October 24th, I believe, was whenever they started it, but no LA team has lost. So who's going to be the first one? Clippers, Lakers, Kings. It's going to be one of those.
I'm going to pick the Kings.
It could be. So Seattle winners over that. What you have tomorrow on Tuesday, Columbus hosting New York Red Bull.
There's the Red Bulls. I knew they were there.
Yep. You have Real Salt Lake hosting Minnesota. That's the LA Galaxy side of the draw. So that's the game you're going to be watching. 5:50 p.m. Or is that what it says? Yeah, 5:50 p.m. Salt Lake City playing against Minnesota. So keep your eye on that one. That's one to watch. And then the LA Galaxy will be the second game. Charlotte and Orlando will play in the return of that match. And then the second leg or the return leg of the LA Galaxy in Colorado. That's on Friday. Saturday, it's New York City, Cincinnati, Atlanta, Miami, Minnesota, Real Salt Lake. Then it's going to be Sunday, New York Red Bulls, Columbus, Houston, Seattle, Vancouver, LAFC. So that's how everything lines up right now for this next week coming up. So a very busy week with a lot of things as well. So let's see. Misanthrope, $5 super chat. Paint so much and should be benched. Fagundes is miles above Paintsel. I do understand he is a very frustrated individual on a lot of accounts. I would not say that Fagundes should start over him, though. He was actually very good, had 4 chances, really good chances, and he helps the LA Galaxy move with speed. I actually went and looked at the ratings for everybody. Everybody in the LA Galaxy is in green. And whenever you look at, this is from Flop Mob, you had Ricky Puig at a 9.6, because of course you did. The assists and the goals, makes sense. Peck over there with a 9, Dejan Jovalic with a 9.3. Everybody in green, including Paintsel, at 7.4, Surreal at 7.2. I'll tell you, the only guy who caught a stray was John McCarthy. The guy doesn't have to face a shot all game, and he's going to get a 6.9. Tough crowd.
You know, Greg Vanny talked about Paintsel afterwards, how he had a couple opportunities early, and how Greg's really cheering for him. You know, Paintsel is, like most attackers, you know, a little bit, confidence ebbs a little bit when you're not scoring, and he just says if Paintsel can put one away, it'll change his game completely. And I kind of agree with him. You know, once he gets a little bit of confidence. By the way, Friday when the Galaxy play, you know what day that is, right?
Friday.
Dia de los Muertos.
Oh, that's right. It is. So it's Halloween and then Dia de los Muertos. So you have that. So I mean, what do you expect from the Day of the Dead from the LA Galaxy then? I mean, is it going to be a rousing good time? This is a weird game for me. So this was one of the things I wanted to talk about. The Galaxy beat Colorado 5-0. Now we know it doesn't extend. It doesn't mean anything. You go into the next game, it doesn't. Is Colorado playing with a chip on their shoulder because they just got embarrassed 5-0? In fact, I said after the game, the team that thought that this was the best game they ever saw with the Portland Timbers, because everybody forgot that the Portland Timbers got beat 5-0 by Vancouver. Is it harder for the Galaxy to go in and get a win because they scored 5 goals? Should the Galaxy have stopped at like 3, just that way?
No, I not at all. I think if anything, the Rapids could be muertos after this game. Because of the 5 goals. I think this is a real mental check for the Rapids. What kind of team are they? And as Greg Vanny talked about when he talked about his 2017 Toronto team that won the only treble in MLS history, he talked about that the foundation for that was set in 2016 when they lost the MLS Cup final against Seattle without giving up a shot on goal. They lost the penalty kicks. And he talked about how that made the team mature. And so I'm looking at this Colorado team and saying, okay, they got blown out 5-0. It wasn't close. They got dominated every facet of the game. They were embarrassed. Let's just say they were embarrassed.
Right.
And they come back and say, okay, we got embarrassed. We got our butts handed to us. We have to win this game. And then we have to go back to LA where Josh Guesman has just told us we've never won a playoff game and never scored a playoff goal.
Right.
We're done. It's over. Just give up. Do they give up? And I mean, you can make the case that, look, there's no use in fighting it. It just let it happen and go quietly into the winter. If they put up a fight and maybe even force the game back to LA, then I would be very concerned about Colorado next season, because this is their maturation game. But I mean, geez, it's just a temptation just to say we're done, we're out. We don't have a prayer.
I always feel like professional athletes don't do that. They don't throw the towel in, especially for a team that is in the playoffs, right? This isn't a bad team. By the way, it's not a good team either. All right. They were basically a 500 team. I think they were 15-14 for their wins and losses and some draws in there. So you're talking about a 500 team is in the playoffs. They stumbled into the playoffs as much as they could. They were at a better position and they dropped in ever since the League's Cup came through. They've had injuries. They sold off a good player. They did some things that probably maybe they shouldn't have. And Armas, the coach of the year dude, hasn't been able to keep them from sliding into this tailspin. I believe they're losers of the last 5 of their last 6 now. Whenever you go back and look at it. So I don't think that I don't think professional athletes roll over like that and just give up. That being said, if the Galaxy score 2 goals early, that may be it.
No, I agree with you. Professional athletes will never admit to doing that, and they'll never say they did that. But you can see the way the shoulders slump, the way,
right.
That you can see the body language. I mean, their best player, arguably, is Jack Steffen, the U.S. national team goalkeeper, the Manchester City guy. He gave up 5 goals. I know they weren't all on him, but 5 times the ball went past him into the net, and he certainly should have made the save on the first goal, the only first half goal. Maybe the game's different if he makes that save. And then of course you have the game changer Kevin Cabral, so anything can happen with him. But I say that tongue in cheek, but right. I mean he is a dangerous guy, and they do have to worry about him. But no, I don't think professional athletes give up. I don't think the Galaxy will ever admit they gave up last year, but we all saw it.
Yeah. When
they would get behind, rather than saying we're going to come back, it was like they just got beat 5-0. As you said, if the Galaxy go up 1-0 in the midway through the first half, I think you're going to see a lot of Rapids going, here we go again.
Yeah. I mean, it could be, right? And it can. And I think that the Galaxy have the ability to do that. But go watch these first round games. Tell me that there's a team that's playing as good as the LA Galaxy right now, because I haven't seen it. I don't think it's close right now, which is crazy to think. Coming off the loss in Houston, you were sort of sitting there. I also think the Galaxy got possibly the easiest draw in the playoffs. So is Colorado that bad? I do think that they played bad, especially with the pieces that they're missing right now. And I'll acknowledge that they're missing those pieces. That's fine. But bottom line is you have to find a way to get it done right now. The Galaxy played the cleanest game out of anybody in this round so far, and you're talking about these are the best teams out there, right? Miami struggled to get past Atlanta. I thought LAFC struggled at times with Vancouver. Watching Cincinnati try to beat New York City. One is, I think maybe I've given Cincinnati too much credit because I didn't think they played that well. They run out of ideas on the offensive side. The 1-0 in New York City certainly isn't there. Orlando has more ideas offensively than a lot of teams, and I kind of like them coming in there. But maybe the LA Galaxy really are this good, and it's tough because I'm close. I realize I'm close. I watch them, and that's the majority of the teams I watch. I try to watch the other games, and I've watched most of the playoff games coming in here. But I just don't see it. I don't see the speed. I don't see the passing ability. And if the Galaxy can do the one thing that they need to do in the playoffs, which they did against Colorado, they tighten up the defense. If they play defensive soccer like they did on Saturday night, the LA Galaxy should be a favorite for MLS Cup. It's that
well,
simple.
And as John Nelson said, defense, you play. It's a team sport. You play with defense with your entire team. It's not just the back line. But having said that, it's a lot easier to defend when you have the ball for 60 of the 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier to be a goalkeeper that gets a clean sheet when there's no shots on goal.
Yep.
So if the Galaxy keep doing that, I was surprised, and I actually wrote about this in my game story off Saturday, is that the Vegas odd makers have LAFC. They have Miami as a far and away the favorite.
Right.
But the Galaxy are equally the number 2 favorite, if you know what I mean. The gap between them and I think LAFC was number 3, or maybe Columbus. I was surprised to find the Galaxy had that much support. And we mentioned betting odds for entertainment purposes only.
Right.
But I was surprised to find that the Galaxy had that much support from the odds makers, who are really supposed to know what's going on and have sort of their fingers on the pulse of this. And they really like the Galaxy. They have it as an Inter Miami Galaxy final. So maybe they know something we don't. But certainly that faith was rewarded in the first game Saturday.
Yeah, Football Mania $2 Super Chat. Fun game, fun show. We'll be posting about it on the computer there, so thank you for that. Appreciate it. Yeah, it is. It's an interesting place to be, and I think there's the ability to watch what just happened and then say who else played that well. But it is one game. So if the Galaxy go out there and do that again to Colorado, if they beat them 3-0, if they go out there and just torch them again, the momentum's there. The problem becomes then is that one, the long break, and two, you're getting into single elimination. Now you have a bad game and you're done. That's it. You're toast. I think the Galaxy 4 wins away from an MLS Cup at this point. So it's getting real. The fact is the Galaxy may have one of their longest winning streaks if they would make it to an MLS Cup they had all season, right? So just watching how they're playing and watching how they're going. They don't need to beat Colorado in Colorado, and I don't know how that changes the temperature of things in terms of their mental focus and their want and desire to make this this round be done. That being said, Colorado's playing for its life, so there is a difference in sort of the back against the wall. I don't know that will matter for the Galaxy, but there is a difference there.
Well, there is a black cloud. We talked about the black cloud of them not winning the conference in the regular season on that tiebreaker. They wanted home field advantage. They thought they needed that. They haven't lost at Dignity Health Sports Park. They didn't get it on a tiebreaker, narrow. So they have to go, if they're going to play LAFC again, it'll be at BMO. But, the way the brackets broke down, it really worked to the Galaxy favor. And this may be a huge silver lining to that black cloud, in that if they had finished first, if they got through the first round, they would have had to play the winner of the Seattle-Houston. Both those teams are Galaxy killers. Galaxy have had tons of problems with them. Not maybe if you look at the overall record, but certainly in big games and playoff games, those two teams have been very tough for the Galaxy. Now the Galaxy will play the winner of the Real Salt Lake Minnesota series, and that I know Real Salt Lake is good and Minnesota can beat the Galaxy, but that is a much more favorable, in my mind, a much more favorable matchup for the Galaxy. And then if LAFC were to lose somewhere along the way, they wind up with the home field advantage for the conference final against whomever, if Seattle or Houston beats LAFC or Vancouver for that matter. So, for all the gnashing of teeth, much of which I did after the Houston game, this worked out really well for the Galaxy, at least at this point.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Obviously, watching that RSL Minnesota game is going to give us a little peek into that window. I'm going to imagine it's RSL, but Minnesota's coming in on a hot streak, so we'll watch that as that sort of goes into the next week.
And the Galaxy don't have to go there, which RSL and Minnesota, their advantage would be going to the RSL with the weather and the altitude. Minnesota, definitely the weather. They would be going there in late November, possible snow, very, very cold. That would give both those teams a huge advantage. It's not going to happen. Those teams have to come here.
Hey, it may rain here on Saturday and Sunday. Just FYI, I didn't know the winter weather was already approaching the fall weather. It was cool.
It rained
today.
Here in South Baker. Yeah, South Bakersfield rained here last night.
That's nice. Did the crops did they stop from shriveling up? That type of thing. That's all I can imagine as it goes. All right, that about does it. Anything else, Kevin, that you want to touch on? Yes, go for it.
Yes. The Galaxy have are about to lose their assistant general manager, Mikey Stevens, to some.
Yes.
Mike Stevens, he is going to work with Greg Berhalter in Chicago, to run the scouting department there, I think. And I talked to a couple of Galaxy players. I talked to Will Kuntz about it. I talked to Gordon Clifton about it. This is a big move for Mike Stevens, and it's something that he wanted personally. He played with Greg Berhalter, who was just signed to be the Chicago Fire coach. He played with Greg Berhalter. He coached with him at the national team. He's from suburban Chicago. His wife's from Chicago. Their family's expanding. They really wanted to go back. And I talked to Will Kuntz about it, and I said, did you guys try to make a counteroffer? Did you try to block it? And they said, no, we're not going to stand in his way. He's done a great job here. He deserves it. We're happy for him. He said that they kind of felt that Mikey was a hot property, and when they went out and signed Miguel Dencher, which I'm sure I'm get that name wrong. History will prove me to get every name wrong. But when they brought him, assigned him in July as the technical director, he had spent the last 8 years at FC Copenhagen. When they brought him in, Will Kuntz said in their mind, it was like, if we lose Mikey, here's a guy that can step in and do the role. We won't miss a beat. We also talked a little bit about how, Mikey played his last 37 MLS games with Chicago, another tie to Chicago.
Right.
But we talked about the importance of this when you look at the big picture with the Galaxy. For the last 7-8 years when they were struggling, nobody wanted to hire anybody.
Right.
Anyone leaving the Galaxy was unemployed for a long time.
We had this discussion with Tom Braun when we were sitting there too. Yep.
Tom Brown, who by the way said, "Well, nothing's final yet," and then both Gordon and Will Coates said, "Yeah, he's this is cleaned out his off."
That wasn't Tom's call. He knew that one. That was he's staying out of that one. I like that. I like it when somebody knows to stay out of something. That was correct.
When you're successful, people come for your employees.
Same with players. Expect the same for players this year too.
Where did Will Kuntz come from? Yep. LAFC, because they were the best team in MLS, and the Galaxy were very interested in hiring him. So, Mikey Stevens, congratulations to him. This is a great move for him. But it happened because of what's happened with the Galaxy in the last 18 months. All those players, Will Kuntz gets the credit for signing all of them, deserves every ounce of credit. But you know what? Every one of those players, Mikey Stevens signed off on them too. Yeah. So, he's kind of Will Kuntz light, if you want to look at it that way.
Yep, absolutely. I had one more thing before we went too, is we teased the story a little bit, and then John called a little bit. If you're a longtime listener of the show, perhaps you'll remember a show that Eric and I did. It was a while back now, probably, let's see, 5 years ago, something like that. But Eric the Hammer and I were doing one, and we had gotten an email from not a listener, but a listener's girlfriend. And basically, she asked us to help ask one of our listeners to Winter Formal, I believe it was. Winter Formal Prom, one of those. I can't remember exactly what it is. Well, Kevin, you and I were up in the press box, and a young man came up. He looked familiar, so I figured that he was always around, that type of thing. But he sort of eventually, you told him, well, get in here and interrupt this conversation we were having, which was good. And Ryan said hi, and he goes, and I go, oh, it's nice to meet you, because I'm like, I feel like I know him, but I'm gonna say nice to meet you. He goes, actually, we've met before. And I'm like, it feels like it. Okay, cool. I'm gonna figure this out. He is that guy who got asked out on our show. So we made that happen. And then he eventually went off, I think, Winter Formal Prom, whatever it was, with the young lady.
So the young lady asked you to, on the air. Say to
yes.
Ryan to ask her out.
Yes, and like little schoolgirls that we are, both Eric and I were like, oh, so excited. Yes, of course. Yes, we were 100% in. And so we did that. And they went the whole deal. So now Ryan is graduating.
The happy couple is now.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. But I didn't want to bring that part up. You always have to be like, let's tell the whole story. Who cares about the whole story? The important part of the story is this: that Ryan, after doing some very successful stuff in college with videography and stuff like that, is now with the Rapids, the Colorado Rapids, doing stuff for their for the Colorado Rapids in terms of, I think, their Apple TV production and stuff that they're putting on there. So Ryan, congratulations! It was great seeing you. But see, it was us, because we got him that date, that eventually we got him to the Colorado. I'm taking full credit for the entire arc. I know I had a small part in it, but I'm going to take care of it. So it was just a fun thing to see. So if you remember that, then you'll be jumping up and down and be like, I do remember that.
Do they have a good time at the Winter Formal?
I imagine they did. By the way, I am still following both of them on Instagram and stuff like that. So I'm well aware of all the happenings, and they both seem like wonderful people. Of course they are, because they listen to our show. So they're well-rounded, wonderful people, and I'm glad that we got to know them. But I just thought it was a fun little tidbit, little tie-in to have there. So that was the fun thing.
So this is kind of like Tinder, or one of those dating sites?
You're like what? The Tinder swipe right, swipe left, Kevin? Do you feel like you missed that part? Like, and you're like, man, maybe that would have been fun at the beginning of it. Now I just hear horror stories of it, and I don't want any part of it. But there was a time right at the beginning when all those dating apps were coming out that I was like, maybe I missed out on this.
eHarmony, remember that one? Whatever happened to eHarmony?
Oh, man. Anyway, so that's what we have. The LA Galaxy coming up, game on Friday. Now, again, the podcast schedule, we told you Wednesday night. Eric and I will be in on Wednesday night to get you ready for that Friday game. The LA Galaxy will have a press conference on Wednesday to get ready. The Galaxy, I believe, fly out on Thursday a.m., if I remember correctly. Thursday a.m., they'll do some training in the p.m. in Colorado, and then they go and play on Friday night. So that is where we're at. All right. So LA Galaxy 5-0 winners. They take game one. Galaxy leading 1-0 in terms of the games. Looking to get that sweep on Wednesday. We'll have that game preview and all the fun little tidbits and notes from training on Wednesday. All right, Kevin, anything else? You good?
I think I'm good.
Wonderful.
Wasn't there a farmers dating site too?
Yes, Farmers Only. Yes, of course.
FarmersOnly.com. There we go.
Yeah, 100%. All right. If you're looking for Mr. Kevin Baxter on Twitter, X, it's at KBaxter11. LATimes.com for all of his coverage, including soccer, including, football, hockey. That's right. Hockey's in there as well. So make sure you go follow Kevin over at LATimes.com. If you're looking for me on Twitter and X, it's at Guesman, at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. All of our fun places, YouTube, all those fun places, that's where you can find it. Like, subscribe, we appreciate you for doing it. Galaxy 5-0 win over
Thanks,
the Colorado
John Nelson.
Rapids. And, thank you. Big one. Big shout out to the LA Galaxy, Mr. Kevin Acevedo, for connecting us with Mr. John Nelson. And thanks, John Nelson, for stopping by and talking to us today. Always great to have him on. All right, for Mr. Kevin, the Panda Baxter, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to Corner of the Galaxy from the box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Talk to you later. Have a great one.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye.